delivery platform suddenly emerged, and that sparked my interest. I was working on a reporting project for a customer, and I thought, oh, I'll use that. And then a couple of years later, I joined the company, as they say. So I was with Crystal as they started Seagate Software, and then through Crystal Decisions, Business Objects, SAP, then some consulting work, and then joined Wiiisdom. And I actually worked for a while as a system administrator for about 8 years. And then after that, decided to join Wiiisdom as I was using the products in the first place. So I thought I might figure out a little bit more. So there you go.
And we're very happy and lucky to have you as well, Evan. And funny enough, your story about the CD here is so many people started on Crystal because of that. I've heard that story so many times that it was actually amazing to see the impact of that day. So,
absolutely.
Evan, I'm happy to be with you. So the topic of the session is about archiving, sharing business object content, and with security. So this is the topic that we're going to be talking.
I thought we were doing eyes first.
Okay, you want to do eyes first?
I thought it was in the agenda.
Is this okay now for you to do this one or not? Or I can swap, or what's the best for you?
I've got everything open for eyes right now.
Okay, so just hold on. I'm going to then show that right away. Just give me a second. Okay, so, well, we're going to, okay. So, nope, hold on. I've got the wrong one here. Let me go to this one here in this case. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So here we go. So the topic right now that we're going to talk about is about how to basically extract the metadata out of business objects, and how to leverage it with 360Suite, leveraging BI on BI. So it's all about BI and BI. So as you know, in business objects, you've got lots and lots of metadata, and it's not necessarily easy to be using. So there is a concept of what we call BI on BI, which is business intelligence on business intelligence. And here it allows you to have access to extract, have access to metadata, and then basically do some reporting on it. So do some BI on that content. So this is extremely interesting and important because of that, you're able to understand, you're doing BI on, for example, who's using the platform, how are they consuming the platform, what is the content not used, what are the resources that are not used, provide lineage information. So there is a lot of valuable information that you're pulling out of that. Within Bobjet, there are a couple limitations here. So today, out of the box, yes, definitely you can get some information from the audit, and then you can have some limited access to the CMS. Here, what we're able to put together the CMS, the audit, and the file store together. So this is very powerful here. Also, we're able to get some information about the non-usage. So it's very interesting to understand who's using, but you also want to know what's not being used. It's very important. It's also completely self-service, and it's actually so much self-service that we can provide this information Webby, and also now leveraging OData, we can show this into Power BI. It's pretty cool. Additionally, some issues, it's always very difficult to understand, the W. So who, what, when, why, what's going on within business objects. With 360, basically, the whole idea here is we're extracting the metadata, we populate into a data mart. We've got 3 universes that are delivered. We've got 50 plus templates that can be customized that we deliver as well with our solution. Of course, the jobs can be scheduled to minimize the impact on production, and everything is centralized in one location. So for all your sub environments, and if you have multiple productions, you can actually centralize it in one location. And of course, in terms of the benefits here, and then we'll go through it, is going to provide you great visibility, what's going on in your platform. You've got some upgrades, migration projects. This is also very powerful because you can understand what's not used. You can document the sources and the targets. Even if tomorrow you decide to sunset, decommission, whatever, it's going to document your environments. If you want to do licensing exercises, it's going to provide you insights of what's used, what's not used in terms of licenses and benchmarks. So Well, Evan, let's finish about the slideshow, and then let's go actually in a demo here. I'll let you share your screen, so I'll stop sharing right away, and I'll let you share.
Okay, thank you, Bruno. Just give me half a second here, and I'll get back to where I need to be. Okay, so let me share my screen here, and I will go. I'm going to share this screen. Nope, wrong screen, beg your pardon. One second, I just need to stop my sharing.
So actually, I did see your screen, so
Yep, I just need to flash to the right screen. 1 second.
not a problem.
That one. Yes. So you should be seeing my BI Launchpad or not.
No, right now we're seeing a web. We're seeing it's
Oh,
not.
I beg your pardon. I know what I'm doing. These two screens are quite similar, so stop share. 1 second.
Not a problem. So here, well, Evan is loading, is we're going to show you different template of our reports in Webby that we have within 360 Eyes that are showing how actually you can leverage this metadata. So this is actually the intent of what Evan is about to be showing you. So, and so of course, we're not going to go through all the reports that we have, and just know that all the reports, you can, customize them. Yeah, so Evan.
Okay, 1 second. It's not displaying my screen here. I'm trying to shut everything down. 1 sec.
Okay, well, that's the demo effect
Sorry,
here.
the demo gods, as they say.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let me try one more time here.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, the reports, you can customize them with the different flavors that you want. And then at the end of this session as well, if we got time, we'll also show you that we can actually extract this information, leverage OData. So we see the same screen again here, Evan.
Oh, for goodness sake, it's ridiculous.
You're showing the BI Launchpad with 360 Eyes custom reports. Is that what you wanted to
That's
show?
where I want to be. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, so you're good.
Okay, sorry, I'm seeing the wrong screen. Okay, beg your pardon. So I'm ready to go now, Bruno. So let's launch into this. So here we are looking at our BI Launchpad screen. And inside of this, we have a directory called 360 Eyes. And inside of that, we have a bunch of different reports that essentially provide the sort of information that we're looking for. It's actually quite interesting listening to the answer to the last question on JF's session, all of which could be answered by the reports I'm just about to show you. So all those kind of impact and information about the actual environment itself are all basically detailed inside of these reports. So I've actually taken the liberty of opening these reports just to make sure that we don't spend too much time watching me open these things. So I'm just going to open up one called the Impact Analysis Report. And one of the questions we had earlier was, can I see the relationship between universes and objects and documents themselves? And the truth is, absolutely. You can see here that in this particular display, we have a universe, we have the object class, the actual name of the object, the path of the document, the actual document itself, and so on. So basically, we can see that we can actually determine what is going on here in this particular environment. As you can see, a large listing report with all the various components here. And again, it takes just a very little piece of interaction here to basically turn around and say, okay, all I'm going to do is just set this as a section. And now I have all of my access to these. I'm now grouping by any object. So if I ever wanted to turn around and say, well, I know what happens if I actually change the actions object and I actually redefine what that actually means. What is actually going to be impacted? Well, we can see these are the documents that are going to be impacted by any change of that specific object class. The other thing we can do is to show the available, is to actually show the group tree. Oops, down here. To actually basically be able to navigate our way down through these various objects and see all the components inside. So again, being able to utilize that report to actually be able to, again, get some insight into what the actually object relationship is between the different objects. The other key report that we have is, again, this was another question that was asked, was which particular documents are being used by the system. So which are our regular documents? So we can see in this particular instance, again, we have the document path, we have other information. Here's the particular document, and we can actually see the times this particular document was last used. So in this particular instance, just say for the first particular document here, we can actually see that it's only been acted on 4 times, that it's the last action date in this particular instance was in May, and the number of days since that action is 104. Okay, so we can actually see, very quickly that we have a number of different reports. We can see exactly when they were accessed and so on. And again, through some limited interactivity in this particular report, we can easily turn around and say, okay, for that action count, okay, again, going into here, we can just do an action count here and go to design and actually, oops. So let's go back to the 60 here. Second, my thing is frozen. 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to move on to a different report here. That's obviously frozen. I'll go back to my documents here, and I can go to the documentation here, look at impact analysis here, and I'll launch it back from here. So you just view the latest instance from here, beg your pardon. And again, as you can see, you can actually turn around and identify, all the components of that particular the documents, and again, when they're being used, since when, and how long. And again, that will give you some idea on the velocity and so forth of this particular environment here. The other thing you can do is to, again, from a normal perspective, is that you can also track duplicated documents. So one of the things that's very important when you're actually doing a migration or doing any kind of cleanup activity on the process is to identify, well, where are the various documents, where they've been put, and so forth. And typically we find, especially over time, that people are copying their documents from inboxes and they're moving them to their personal folders. And essentially they're the same documents, but basically just distributed around the enterprise platform. So essentially what we can do here is identify in certain circumstances, oh, these are actually the same documents, but they're actually just in different locations. So for example, in this particular instance, we can see that here we have a document called the snapshot summary, but we also have exactly the same document in another directory. And this one happens to be a personal directory. So as part of cleanup, we can again get rid of all that redundancy by being able to track those duplicated reports. And again, that will allow you to do significant cleanup before actually getting onto the migration platform itself. The other useful report that I also use significantly is the user activity report here. So remember, Bruno was making a very important point, which was, okay, we can find out from the audit universe what has happened, but again, we can't necessarily find out what hasn't happened. And this particular example shows that very clearly. So in this particular instance, what we can see is that we're doing usage behavior. So essentially, this particular user has not actually been on the system for a specific period of time. Here is a particular user, and this is the last time they were on the system, and how many actions. So who are our active users? Not only who's logging onto the system and so on, but also who are our active users. So for instance, we can see that obviously there's a lot of users who are not logging on at all. That we see that this P. Perrier is fairly doing a lot of action. So is a number of other people here, and we can again just find exactly what's going on here. So let me just go back and find out that we're going to go to the user activity. So what we can do, second.
So essentially here you can compare the user activity also through time.
Yeah. Oh, something's going wrong here. Yeah, beg your pardon, Bruno, I forgot that question.
Yes,
Sorry.
so you can compare the user activity through time, and then of course,
absolutely,
which is very handy for regulatory purposes. Like yesterday, I visited a customer, and then the customer was mentioning they've got some recertification to do for SOC compliance, and that is actually the type of report that she would be using for that.
Yeah. And again, one of the other things that's very, very useful is to be able to actually analyze your instance behavior on the platform. So we have a particular report. I don't know what's that. I think I may have been logged off here. I think that's what's going on here. So let me just log off here, leave. I think that's what's going on.
That's part of
So
it.
let me just log quickly back on, and luckily I have all of these set up as instances, so it won't take long to pick these up.
Okay, and then let me see if I can go through some questions while you do that. Okay, I'm just I'm looking for the questions I have. Give me a second here. Q&A. Okay, here. So is the session going to being recorded? Yes, it is. And looks like there has been an issue on different time zones here. Are you able to combine audit, CMS, and FRS information together? Yes, definitely. This is something that we can do because we extract all this information, we put it through the data mart, and then from there, we're actually able to answer it. Are you doing any impact analysis? Yes, it's something that we do with 360 ISO as lead. So you're back up, Evan. So if you can continue your presentation here.
Absolutely. Okay, so as I say, one of the reports we had obviously was looking at user activity here. And again, we're looking at a situation whereby, again, users have not been logged on at all, or if they have been logged on, exactly when was the last time they've been doing something, and what was their most, which kind of actions were performing on most active. So again, through a design mode, you can just do a sort ascending on here, and you can just do, a sort on this, send here. Just leave it for a second. And then we should be able to see exactly who are our most active users. And then you can see here, we have our active users, but not only that, we can also see that some of our most active users haven't actually done anything for a while. Okay, so in that scenario, even though they actually would say, hey, you're doing a lot of work, actually, they haven't done anything for a while. So that might indicate that they've done a lot of work in the past, but have either moved into a different department or moved into a different setup and so forth. Again, the other element, another report that we can look at is instance of volume information here. So we can actually look at different reports here on this one here. So let me just quickly view the latest instance here. So again, from here, we can see top level aggregations of the distribution of where our information is, which reports are in which locations, what the size is in each of those different locations. And then of course, we can break that down into all of these subfolders as well. So every single part of where your activity is recorded. And I remember finding this very, very useful in a situation where we actually suddenly found that there was a lot of activity going in the personal folders. And then we suddenly found out that was a result of somebody who was actually scheduling a report to run every 5 minutes, and it was clogging up the system by them actually running it in the personal folders. And by actually using a report like that enables you to basically go in and analyze that very quickly. So a very useful report here. Again, on the scheduling analysis perspective, I think I was just about to bring that report up here. Okay, so I'm going to view the latest instance here. Again, we can see that there's kind of like a scheduling summary here, the most scheduling, which reports are most frequently scheduled, the destination types that they're going to, the format types, recurrence, and so forth. So all of that kind of like top level information. But then you have something like this, where you actually have a large amount of information that's basically, again, just listing information here that allows you to see all the details. But as you can see, there are 65 pages of this. So what you can also do, again, very, very quickly, is you'll go into, looking at something like this and view the instance of here. Okay, but what we can do here is we can actually then say, okay, we're going to use input controls to basically turn around and be able to navigate what we want to do here. So again, I'm going to put all values here. So that's going to bring back that same 65 pages here. But then again, just really quickly say, okay, well, just list me all the failures. What reports are failing? Or what reports are, recurring? What are my recurring reports sitting out here and so forth? So again, you can quickly be able to navigate through this and actually be able to hone in on specifically. So again, I'm really interested in seeing, well, what types have we got that are crystal and so on. So again, just by putting in a very simple input control on top of a delivered report can actually give you a lot of interactivity here to be able to, again, determine a lot of things here. And again, people were asking about, well, can you see the duration date? Absolutely. You can see the scheduled duration here. So you can be able to sort by this value and so forth to, again, find out which are your very expensive reports and so forth. So again, a very valuable tool in terms of actually getting real insight into your environment here.
And Evan, here also the nice thing is you can compare, for example, these durations. So you can compare this information through time as well.
Absolutely.
So
yes, absolutely.
Because overall, you always want, when it comes to time, you always want to benchmark this type of information. And some of our retailers, customers also use, like, for example, this type of report where they rely a lot on business objects, on their scheduling. And if there is an issue in the scheduling, they want to know. So here, instead of being reactive, they're proactive because they can see there is an issue and then they can address it before getting all the tickets in. So this is really extremely handy.
Yeah, absolutely. And then as we can move into different environments. The other key aspect to gain insight is to, well, what's actually happening within my environment in terms of who's been on the system, what's the scope of the system, and so on. So we can also look at in our security reports. We can also see the ability to actually identify connections and sessions information here. So again, you can actually turn around and say, okay, let me look at this. I'm going to view again the latest instance here. And what this will do is actually will give you a very clear view of what your licensing is going on, who's actually logging onto the system, when they're logging on, and which licenses are being accessed here. So obviously, within the business object framework, there is a concurrent access license, or CAL, and then there's a named license. In this particular instance, we're breaking it down so you can see the two different plots on this particular graph going again over time, indicating exactly what kind of activity there is on the system. And this is a very, very useful tool to be able to understand, are your licenses being used efficiently? Are there times when you're actually getting to peaks where actually you're starting to threaten the amount of licensing that you have? So again, this is a very useful tool to be able to, again, manage your environment from a licensing perspective. I remember, situations where I've been asked, well, I know you're requesting more licenses. Can you show us why you need them? And something like this was a very useful vehicle to turn around and say, well, we're basically hitting peak all the time here. And also, not only that, but through another report, we can identify that there are a bunch of people who are not actually being able to log on. So again, in that scenario, you also have another piece of this setup here, which is, you can also look at failed logons. I think it's in.
Yeah, this is very handy.
Failed login attempts. So again, you could actually just view that particular report again. And again, just to reiterate, you can also refresh against specific things here. So when we have one key point is that whenever we actually write information into the database here, we tag it with a date and time. And this is what Bruno was referencing earlier. That allows us to be able to then essentially be able to, identify things over time. So who's actually logging on over time and things like that. So again, you can see that in this particular scenario, there's been some failed logon attempts with the administrator and other various people. Again, there'll be a message that's indicating, oh, it's some reason that caused that issue. But again, failed logon attempts will allow you in communication with that concurrent access license with the session information to be able to quickly be able to put the case together that you need more licenses. And again, this is all part of managing your environment. The last thing I'd like to do, again, there are many, many reports. Again, I'm showing you just a really a fraction of the ones that we have. As we mentioned, there's over 50 here. But the key point here is also to recognize that, which is, we are writing into a data warehouse. Okay, so we're writing into a data mart, and it's built specifically for reporting. So again, it will support ad hoc analysis. So again, we can just go into here, identify a universe, click OK, and then I'm going to turn around and say, oh, I'm going to have my CMS universe here. So I will pick up my reports universe, and I will get the right reports universe here. And I'll click OK. Okay, and I can drag over information here, so I can put my snapshot ID, and so let me just bring over snapshot, and names, DMS, date. And then what I'm also going to do is go into my document, and see my information here. And in the document ID, I'm going to have document name. I'll put the document path in here. And there's actually a reason I'm doing this, because we're also going to look at inside of here is document keywords. Okay, and we're going to identify that when we run this keyword, we're actually going to look for any value that has pseudo archive in it. Okay, so I'm going to run this query. Okay, and why am I doing this? Because we're going to be talking about archiving in the future. And what we're doing here is we're using 360 Eyes to basically identify those reports that we need to archive in the future. And when we talk about archiving in the next session, you'll see exactly why this becomes extremely relevant, because we're using Eyes to basically drive a process here of archiving our information as well.
So the other part here that's cool. So this is one scenario. Another scenario, for example, is if you've got some PII information. So essentially here you're able to enter like a tag in the metadata description, like through a tag here, let's say hashtag PII or whatever you want. And the cool thing here is you're actually able to report on the PII itself on, for example, is this used, not used? There's a lot of activity you can do that is very valuable from a regulatory perspective there. So this is, for example, to pseudo archive, but again, this can be used for other purposes in terms of PII or sensitive information.
Yep, so that's what I had prepared in terms of the some of the reports that we have. Apologizing for my log off.
That's part of the live.
But that's the demo, God's sake.
Thank you very much, Evan. We've got a question from Arno as well. Can I see which report has been sent to which email address?
So the answer is actually yes. So let me look at this. So actually, I can do that in my scheduling analysis report. Okay, so do this one. Okay, so which destination? Actually, I'm going to go back to my custom version here, and I'm going to see the destination list of values. And as you can see, one of those is emails. So I can actually see, actually, I've probably got some contracts. Let me just all values here and all values there. Okay, and that's got the ones that are going. So actually, you can see here, they're going off to, you know, the to this particular instance here. So I can just say it's going off to SI email addresses and so on. So again, this will actually show you that the list is here. Obviously, there's going to be in this particular instance, the report isn't formatted to show the whole email, but trust me, the content is inside of here. So again, what you can do is, again, theoretically, just turn around to say, okay, I can identify and put a search string on a specific email. But yes, that's in there. It's in the destination list instance.
And can you provide the time, at what time it was sent? Is there something you have here?
It'll be sent at the end of the schedule, whatever the schedule end date is, whatever the end time of that will be when it's sent, because that's by definition the last action of the schedule. So that will be when it was sent. Yes.
Okay. Okay, then we have another question. I tried to get the sender. Okay, no, hold on. Hold on. Okay, 360 Eyes reports are based on Audit Universe, or is it custom 360 Universe?
It's basically, there are three data sources. There's a CMS repository, the audit database, and the file repository. So we gain information from each of those. So yes, it ties to the audit database directly, but it doesn't it's basically in conjunction with the CMS and the FRS. So all three of those are data sources for 360 Eyes. Yes.
Yeah, and 360 basically come with its own canned universe. And if we have some 360 customers as well here, and I see some are on, so that, you know, as well as now 360 Eyes is part of what we call the web platform. And I think we're going to support the current, let's say the classic 360 Eyes version until end of Q2. And we recommend you to be migrating to the new version of 360, because it's part of the same platform than the rest of the solutions of 360. And it's actually very, very easy. It's pretty cool to use. Additionally, maybe Evan, you want to show again is or not, we build an example where we're also able through OData to feed 360 eyes, 360 information into Power BI as well. So it makes it, it gives you like a big picture as well of all the data you have. So
yeah, I actually stopped sharing for a second, but I can share that back. So yes, this is again using OData. As you can see, 360 eyes data is the source of here. So again, we're pulling audit information, we're pulling CMS information, and so on. And again, creating an interactive dashboard by being able to change various widgets here and so forth. But the key element here is that we're using Webby to access the data inside of our 360 eyes warehouse to be able to pull those queries out of that warehouse and then deliver them directly as obviously data blocks into Power BI in this instance, or Excel, or SAP Analytics Cloud, or whatever the option is. It's still the same architecture, and we're just using Power BI as a vehicle to show that right now.
Okay, thank you very much, Evan. So let's go to the next session. So okay, let me share you my screen here. Okay, share. Let me go into slideshow mode. Okay. Okay, do you see my screen, Evan?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so thanks a lot. So the topic here is going to be to be exchanging about how to archive, how to share and secure content that you're sharing outside of business objects. So what we see a lot of customers today, they've got some struggle when it comes to archiving. And this is what we want to address today with Wiiisdom 360. So just a couple facts before we start is 60% of the content basically is not used in the past 13 months. So how do we know that? Is essentially we've been doing assessments for over 15 years with our customers, and we see trends. So we know today that's over 60% of the content is not used in the past 13 months. So it's very important to understand what that content is, and there's a lot of impact on migrations. We'll talk about it after. Another fact is more than 30% of the content is ungoverned. So that means that in general it's shared through Excel, PDF, and it's very difficult to manage and to control. So there's always some security issues that are related. The benefits of archiving BI content, definitely there is a cost impact because it costs you in terms of storage to keep this content on your platform. And I guarantee you, once you go on the cloud, storage is not free. So you'd better actually, in fact, the good practice is before you do migration, before you do an upgrade, make sure that you archive that content, in particular for cloud migrations, and think through the entire process. If you do an upgrade or migration, as mentioned, it's important to archive it because there is a clear impact. There is a clear correlation between the amount of content that you are going to archive and your time and the cost for migration. So just imagine you basically remove 40-60% of the content, or you archive it before migration. Well, definitely your migration will go that much faster on that, and it's going to cost you a lot less. And of course, this content is the next time you do an upgrade or whatever, you don't need to worry about it. Of course, when you're archiving is important. If you want to sunset, decommission, it's something that's very important as well, because you need to keep access to all this information. It's very important in terms of regulation. When you do archiving, and this is no surprise here, this is actually based on this document that is shared at the end of the presentation. But basically, there are 3 pillars that you need to consider. Is number 1 is the confidentiality. So you archive, just make sure that that content is secure. So make sure that you've got you secure the content through a password. Make sure that only specific people can have access to it. The integrity. So basically make sure that there is a non-repudiation, meaning that when you archive it, make sure that the content is not going to change. So that there's no issues, there's no question to it. And of course, make sure that this content is available. And that's why in general, we recommend archiving like in PDF for the format, and then Excel to extract the data. Archiving is something also we're going to talk about. So 2 types of archiving. pseudo archival. So essentially, this is the first step to go to an archival process, to archiving. Essentially here, what we're going to present is we're able to hide the content from the user. So basically here is, let's say there's a content that you see that has not been used in the past 13 months. You don't want to completely archive it because you're thinking, hey, maybe the business user is going to get back to me and will be wanting to have access to it. So here, basically, essentially, we're able with 360 to hide that content. And if one day the business user says, you know what, I need to get that content back, basically the admin here has got an entire list of the content has been pseudo archived, and he can actually unhide it because essentially it never left where it was just hidden. And then let's say after the pseudo archival, there's no feedback from the users, you're actually able to archive the content, move it from business objects. So and then the last part we're going to talk about is about the bursting. So it's a good practice as well to plan your archiving. And what you can do here is when you send out instances, you can actually start to plan for your archiving at the same time, where just you're running it once for users, just use the same run, so the same pass essentially, so not to put more load, to handle the archiving at the same time. So Evan, I'll pass it over to you for your demo here.
Okay, thank you, Bruno. So I'm just going to give me a second here to share my screen.